What is up, guys? Welcome back to another, YouTube video. So, after yesterday, I decided, you know what, I'm going to pursue and making a few aviation videos from tips and tricks of me as a student pilot currently with about 40 hours of experience. Today, in our video, we're going to explain how are you going to, some tips and tricks on how to master your landings.
Wait a minute, Tyler. Before that, these audience people need to know who I am.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Oren, and I'm one of Tyler's good friends, and I also have a big general interest in aviation as well.
You have 0 hours, buddy.
Okay, well, here's the thing about that. I have done an intro flight. I have passed ground school. I know maybe one of more things about aviation, and I'm here as pretty much Tyler's co-pilot in this channel. And
Okay, I'll take that.
Our aviation-related educational videos.
All right, so let's get into it. Anyways, that it was a little cropped out, but anyways, I think for today we have a few planes to demonstrate. We have a Piper, we have a Beechcraft, we have a Cessna. One of the more popular trainer planes out there is a Cessna, so we're gonna use a Cessna today.
172.
Cessna 172, yes, over a 152. I mean, no hate on people who fly 152s, okay?
They
this
are
plane's
small,
just
though.
fine. Yeah, and we're gonna use a Beechcraft today. It's a cool little Beechcraft. So anyways,
Piper PA-28.
we'll use that on another future video. So before we start with the actual demonstration of these little toy planes, first thing I'm going to explain as someone who has about 40 hours of experience, the first thing you want to actually work on when you're landing a plane is you have to, you want a buttered landing. You're not trying to, slam that landing.
Yeah. Yeah, the worst thing you could do is damage the plane or even scare your instructor.
You don't want your CFI hating you.
Yeah.
You would not want that. You want to get in the vibe with your CFI.
Oh, yeah.
And if anyone new to the channel, new to flying, CFI means Certified Flight Instructor. And before we talk about anything, we just want to make sure that us giving you tips and tricks that might not be for you. It's just what my general experience and what I've experienced will show, and what I think it might be a potential solution. But always reach out to a CFI for more in guidance, as they will know how you're actually flying.
Yes, these are very just broad explanations. Obviously, there's much more in it than what we're going to explain. Do not just, try doing your flights just based on our knowledge and our explanations. Definitely go meet up with someone who's actually certified within the business.
That's correct. Okay, first thing, in my opinion, personal, for making your landing the best that you can, before I get into that, everyone's going to always have a bad landing. Even if airline pilot occasionally has bad landings, everyone just has bad landings somehow, weather related or just in general. Everyone just has bad landings.
500. Wind shear, speed,
Sink rate.
speed.
Sink rate.
Landings. I've had bad landings. When I first started learning how to land, I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to land this plane? It could come out, flat, or you slam it down a little too hard, or just in general, your landing will just be hard, and it's fine.
Well, yeah, I've had bad landings on the simulator, though.
Yeah, slamming your landings on a simulator will not cause any injuries, really.
No.
Unless you aggressively fly a simulator.
To have fun.
Dude, okay. You just cut your engine out. What are you... You're like a maniac, but...
Well, yeah, we're not going to get into
Yeah. Anyways, first thing that you would want to butter a landing is... One of my tips personally is when you're putting control inputs when you're on final, you want to make sure you put less control inputs as much. You don't want to put aggressive amount of control inputs, because that just makes your plane wobble, and then eventually you would land flat, or you're going to land nose gear first. And when you're landing a Cessna, you want to, or any plane in general, you want to keep that nose gear smooth and let it touch down last, or hold it off as much as possible before you let the nose gear slowly come
Tyler,
down.
why don't you demonstrate that with a model airplane?
Well, first of all, let's assume this is a runway and this is a 172. You're on final when you're landing. So once you're okay, let's not do this. I'm just trying to adjust. But anyways, the first thing you want to do when you're landing is you're going to have a constant glide angle most of the time, and then stay aligned on the center line. Once you about to flare out, your power's to idle, and then you start flaring out. you're going to most likely be somewhere like this. Now, if you add a lot of control inputs, this is what happens most of the time. And then eventually you're going to slam like this when you're losing airspeed. So one thing you could do is definitely put slower control inputs and eventually flare, and eventually you will touch down. And then your CFI will also teach you some good methods, tips, and tricks on how to actually master that. But for me personally, I just put slower control inputs and it eventually just settles down on the ground like butter. And when you're landing, another thing is when you're on final and you notice that you're fast, you're going faster than the actual speed you want to be going. The one thing you can do to actually help you with that is, first thing, put the power to idle. You know, from when I just started landing, I always thought you want to keep the power at the descent power rate, which is around 15 to 1700 on a Cessna. It depends on the model and the make of the plane, but you know, when you have your carb heat on and your power is at 1500, if you're gonna keep landing like that without reducing too much power, because that's what I used to think, you're gonna be fast on final. And then one thing you can do is definitely put the power to idle, you know, slow it down. Once you're slowed down, you can definitely make a much better landing. But if you reduce the throttle and you're still fast, maybe you were higher on approach, and you know, one thing you can do is to put the flaps all the way down a little earlier, right? If your speed is within the range of the flaps, then you can, your airspeed will slowly slow down, and you can also slowly glide down to the runway and land. But if you're still fast, one method is a slip. What a slip is, let's say your plane's coming like this on a landing and you slip. When your rudder's that way, it helps you slow down, and you slowly slow down, and then once you get closer to the runway, you round out and stay aligned, and that's how you touch down. And then most of the time it should work. And worst case scenario, if your approach was unstable or you don't feel comfortable about it, go around. It's not troubling to go around.
It's always better safe than sorry.
Exactly. So if you don't decide to go around and you decide to force that landing, worse outcomes could happen, and you could be you're going to spend a lot more time, effort, investigations from FAA and all that if you cause an accident, you know? If you go around, it's a much better way of landing.